Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 122 of Brett on Fett. And although we're not quite at the end of the year for 2025, I did think it was appropriate to go ahead and reflect on the best releases we've had for the year in the vintage collection, because basically we are done receiving any more product for TVC in this year. We got the final wave of TVC figures at least several weeks ago, and so I thought it was a good time to go ahead and do my best figures of the year as well as best cardbacks of the year at this time. Now, before we get into the main topics of this video, I do want to address a couple of things. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the huge loss we had this past week in the toy collecting community. Mr. Simon Cy Richardson, aka Manga Fandanga on social media, suddenly and tragically passed away this past week. It is such a sad loss. If you didn't know, Cy is the brother of Mark Richardson. Mark is better known as Shabby online. Shabby has a tremendous YouTube channel, Shabby Geek. He's also on Instagram. Super guy, always brings a smile to my face when I watch his videos. And Shabby and his brother Cy are just so impactful in this community in the positive way. Cy was also a tremendous artist, very talented guy. And so we're just very sad for the Richardson family. If you're a big time toy collector, and if you're watching this channel, you obviously are, I recommend go follow Shabby if you're not already following him. It's Shabby Geek. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description of this video. Go follow Shabby and give him some love. He could really use our support at this time. All right, so I'd also like to make an announcement for my channel. This coming Friday, November 28th, 2025, I will be hosting another live stream auction on Whatnot. Now, if you're not familiar with Whatnot, it's an awesome new live streaming auction service. It's kind of a nice alternative to eBay where you can go online and bid on products live in an auction. You can interact with the seller, you can see the products, you know exactly what you're bidding on, and you can get some really great deals. Now, if you haven't already joined Whatnot, I will leave a referral link in the description of this video. I'll probably also post something online on the post section of my YouTube channel. And if you join with my referral link, you get an instant $15 credit. So you could join, you could check out my live stream and bid on something for say $10 and end up getting, a free Star Wars figure with that credit. So it's a pretty good deal and you might just have a lot of fun. And even if you're not looking to buy anything, just come hang out with me and chat me up a little bit. I would love to hang out with some of you guys. I don't do live streams typically on my YouTube channel. And so I would love to see you guys. And who knows, maybe you'll just find something I'm selling that you might actually need. I will be selling a lot of TVC stuff, but I'll also have some Black Series, some retro collection, even some Power of the Force figures as well. So you might just get a good deal on something you actually need in your collection. So check it out. Again, it's Friday, November 28th, 2025. That is Black Friday. It's going to be at 3 p.m. Central Time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please check it out and come say hi. Thanks a lot. All right, so before we get to my top 10 figures of the year, I am a carded collector, so I always like to go over the best card backs. So I'm going to give you guys my top 10 card backs for the vintage collection for 2025. And there really isn't many ground rules. Basically, the only ground rule is that it can't be a card back that has already previously been released in the vintage collection. If it's a card back from Vintage Kenner or some previous line, those are eligible. It just can't be something that's been used in TVC before. And that's basically the only rule for my top 10 card backs. So let's get into it. All right, so let's get started with my top 10 card backs of the year for 2025. We'll get started with an honorable mention, and that is Chewbacca VC381. This is just a partially new Chewbacca we got, but the card back is awesome. This is an alternate image with respect to the original Kenner Chewbacca image of Chewie. And if you ask me, this is an improvement over that original image, which was, zoomed in on his face just a little too much. I really dig the more full-bodied action pose they went with. All right, getting into the top 10 at number 10, I have Dr. Evazan VC57. This is the reissue of that figure, but it is an all-new alternate card back. and it is a much improved card back. This is a really cool image. You've got the lit up bar in the background, and it really does a great job of capturing that scene between him and Luke Skywalker at the cantina. And by getting that image of the bar in the background, it feels like it's kind of helping us celebrate the Cantina HasLab that came out this same year. Alright, at number 9, I'm going with a classic card back, and that is Han Solo VC372. Of course, this is a classic image of Han from the Kenner line, but this is the first time we've had this card back and that image in the official vintage collection, and I think Hasbro did a great job with the color grading of that image. I have seen some of these old Kenner images in TVC kind of go badly, where the color's a little bit off, and I think this one really pops. It looks awesome. Next up at number 8, I'm going with the Jawa Mos Eisley VC342. This was the figure that came exclusively with the Streets of Mos Eisley set, and I just love this image of what I imagine to be a drunken Jawa on the streets of Mos Eisley. The image they used just puts a smile on my face. I just thought this was a really cool idea and sets the scene for what I imagine to be not too far from the cantina. At number 7, I went with Moff Gideon Dark Trooper Armor VC368. This was just really cool looking armor for that character in Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and I think they did a great job with the image used, where you really get a feel for how cool he looks. If the image could have had a little more contrast between his black suit and that dark color of the background, then I think this would have ranked a little higher, but I don't know what else they could have done. He's wearing a black suit, he's standing in a dark cave, so really there's nothing else they could have done. But either way, really cool card back. Next up at number 6, I have Clone Trooper Lieutenant Teth VC348. Although Hasbro misnamed this figure, it is not a lieutenant, it's just a regular 501st clone trooper. It is an awesome card back. I love the explosion in the background. You can see other troopers running in the back. It's kind of smoky, but it's still clear enough to look really awesome. I think they did a great job. I love my card backs to have action-packed images on them, and this one is no exception. Coming in at number 5, I have the Stormtrooper VC231. This is another reissue, but with an all-new alternate card back. And what a card back that is. That is a really cool image of the Stormtroopers from A New Hope. I just really like this image, and I love that Hasbro is doing this, giving us reissues with alternate card backs to collect. The Stormtrooper is a figure that should always be available for sale, so it's nice to have new card backs so things don't get too stale for older collectors. At number 4, I have Luke Skywalker Tatooine. This is VC344A. This is the deluxe version of Farm Boy Luke, and unfortunately it is on that deluxe card back they were making that is extra wide, but this should be the last one we get of that card back. With Hasbro has announced that they will go back to the traditional size even for deluxe releases. This is of course an alternate image of Luke with respect to the original Kenner card back image of Luke staring at the twin suns, and I love that they got the land speeder there in the background, signifying that this came with the land speeder. So this is a great card back, although it is too wide. Shame that we couldn't have gotten this one on a traditional 6x9 card back. At number 3, I have Joruus C'baoth VC361. This is from that Heir to the Empire 3-pack. A really awesome 3-pack, and I love the artist rendering here. It's very nostalgic of the type of artwork in the 90s that was done for the Timothy Zahn novels. And so looking at this card back really takes me back to my high school days when I first read these novels. And this image really does a great job of capturing how powerful of a dark Jedi that Joruus was. All around, this is a fantastic, refreshing card back. And for number 2, I have another figure from the Heir to the Empire 3-pack, this being Grand Admiral Thrawn. I love this card back basically for all the same reasons I just gave on the Joruus figure card back, but this one just does it even a little bit better. I love the images of the planet behind him as well as his ship, the Chimera. Very cool image, VC360, and they just couldn't have done a better job of capturing the spirit of that original Heir to the Empire trilogy release. And finally, my number 1 card back of the year for the Vintage Collection is the Clone Trooper 501st Legion from Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is of course a reissue again, but with a brand new alternate card back image and it is spectacular. This trooper looks so cool with this image. I love how they focused in on him, and you've got some more troopers in the background. I love the lighting of this image and how it's reflecting off his armor, letting you know that this is a true live action suit and not CGI as was done in episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. All around, very cool card back. One of my favorite TVC card backs of all time. Alright, so now it's time for my most important top 10 of the year, that being the top 10 vintage collection figures of the year. There are some ground rules to cover. One main one that might surprise you guys is on my top 10 figures of the year, I am not going to count the HasLab exclusive figures. I just feel like because they're locked behind a very expensive product, that it's not really fair to include them with the rest of the retail figures that most people have access to. I want anyone watching to be able to purchase any of my top 10 figures, and so I just feel like they should be kept in a class of their own. Of course, the figures we got for the Cantina HasLab this year are amazing. I love them, and no doubt they would be in my top 10. But I just don't feel like it's right to include them. So no HasLab figures in my top 10. Also, repaints are always eligible in my top 10, but they also will be at a disadvantage when compared to figures that use all new tooling or partially new tooling. So just keep that in mind. Also, I think this goes without saying, but complete reissue figures are not eligible. They have to at the very least be repaints. Also, the figures do not have to be a carded release. They could be figures that were included in a multi-pack, such as a special action figure pack. And so not every figure eligible would necessarily have an official VC number to it. And finally, just to clarify the timeline, the first official wave of 2025 was the wave that included Luke Skywalker and Dedra Meero. And the final official wave of 2025 was the one that included Han Solo and Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that wave marked the ending of 2025 releases for TVC. And with those clarifications out of the way, I think it's time we get started on my top 10 TVC figures of 2025. All right, kicking things off for our top figures of the year, I do, of course, have an honorable mention, and I went with Han Solo VC372. TVC collectors have been waiting a while for a good, proper episode 4 Han Solo, and what we ended up getting is a pretty good all-new figure. The head sculpt looks very good from some angles. Other angles, it looks a little bit on the frumpy side to me, but the detailing on the rest of the figure is very good. I love his jacket, holster, belt buckle. Everything is done really well. Now, there is one major issue with this figure, and it is the wrists. They look absolutely terrible. They tried to recreate his sleeve being slightly up, and it doesn't taper down to fit the hand. It just looks like another part of the sleeve, but painted the same color as his skin, so it's just really awkward looking. The wrist issue keeps this figure from being an excellent figure and definitely kept it out of my official top 10. All right, getting into my top 10. At number 10, I have Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi VC373, another main hero character from episode 4 we've been waiting for in the Vintage Collection for a very long time. Of course, this is the Alec Guinness version of Obi-Wan. The head sculpt, in my opinion, is not a perfect match to the likeness of Alec Guinness, but it's very close and has some good detailing and paint apps with the beard and his hair. The figure itself overall looks really good. I like the detailing on here, and I love the use of the soft goods. To me, it really works. His lightsaber looks excellent, both the lit version and the unlit version. Very good paint apps on there. And the only real issue I have with this figure is that they stitched down the hood, so you cannot put the hood over the head. I think they did this to keep it from looking too loose, but to me, they could have done something better. Maybe just add a little patch of Velcro or something. I don't like not having the option to pull his hood over his head. So that was really disappointing. Definitely kept him down to number 10. Next up at number 9, I have another popular character we've been waiting for in the Vintage Collection for a long time, and that is Asajj Ventress VC364. Of course, we got Dooku last year, so we had to have his apprentice from the Clone Wars, and she looks amazing. Really love the paint apps on her head sculpt, and they go all the way to the back with her tattoos. Cloth goods look excellent. Really, Everything about this figure looks really good. Nothing about this figure looks like Hasbro cut any corners to me. And I love how you can mount her unlit sabers to her belt buckle. But here is the only problem with this figure, and that is her sabers. The hilts themselves are just entirely too big. They just look humongous mounted to her belt, and trying to grip them in her hands, it just doesn't work. I think they're probably about 25% oversized. Not sure what happened there, but it just really takes me out of it when I'm looking at how big these saber hilts are. And so that issue alone is what put her down at number 9 for me. Were it not for those sabers, definitely I would have had Asajj higher on my list. Coming in at number 8, I have the Imperial Armored Commando VC-366 from The Mandalorian. These troopers just had a really awesome design from the show, and I think Hasbro pretty much nailed the look of them. Now, unfortunately, they released this as a deluxe figure, and the problem with that is this is an army builder, so it made it a little more challenging for people to army build with these troopers because they're so expensive. But the plus side is they came with a lot of cool accessories. So if you get multiples, you can mix and match with different soldiers using different weapons, which I like. The detailing on the figure is good. Nothing feels left out. Articulation is good. Overall, just a really cool figure. At number 7, I have Crosshair VC-370, of course, from the Bad Batch. We've waited forever to get a second member of Clone Force 99, and they did a great job with this guy. His face sculpt looks good. Everything about the detailing works. It's very similar to Hunter. That was also an excellent figure. They went with a swappable head for the helmet, which was a good call. So his helmet does not look oversized. And I love how his sniper rifle can break down and fit onto his backpack. That is an excellent feature. Overall, I can't find really anything wrong with this figure. It's all new and it looks fantastic. It'll go nicely with Hunter. Now we just need the rest of the gang. Hopefully Hasbro doesn't make us wait as long for the next Bad Batch member to arrive. Next up at number 6, I have Anakin Skywalker. And this is the Clone Wars version of Anakin from the Journey of Anakin Skywalker special action figures set. Now, we also had an Ahsoka version that is very, very similar. The main differences here is he has the cape on the back and he also has his scar, which is more accurate. And so I went with this one, but it is an excellent figure. I really dig the head sculpt. I love the outfit. I love the combination of soft goods and plastic on this figure. I think it's done very well. Really nice balance. And now that we have this, I would really love to see an all-new version of the Clone Wars Obi-Wan with the armor. The one we have is just severely outdated, and I think it would look awesome to go with this new Anakin. Next up, one of my favorite releases of the year was that we got an all-new Imperial Snowtrooper, the first ever in TVC, believe it or not. I am a huge Empire Strikes Back fan. It is my favorite Star Wars film. So this has been a long time coming for me, and Hasbro nailed it. This thing looks awesome, very screen accurate. The mold on the helmet looks good. Backpack looks good. I love the soft goods comma, and I love the weathering on the boots. They did not cheap out on us with the weathering there. That looks great. And I like that they gave us, and I love that not only did they give us an Army Builder 4-pack of these guys, but they also gave us a Snowtrooper Commander, and they did not cheap out on that as well. They actually used a different helmet sculpt for the Commander, and there's a holster there, a different backpack, so there's a lot of good details that they switched out to make it a screen accurate Commander versus just changing the insignia or something like that. Overall, awesome job by Hasbro on the Snowtrooper. Really glad we finally have this guy in the line. 2025 was the year of the Return to Tatooine campaign, so we finally got a lot of the missing Episode 4 heroes, most notably Luke Skywalker. And I've gone with Luke Skywalker Tatooine as my number 4 pick. Of course, we've got the regular Farm Boy Luke, non-deluxe, and I'm going with the deluxe version simply because I see a few noticeable improvements on this one. Namely, the head sculpt looks just a little bit better. They did something slightly different with the face printing that makes it look a little more like Mark Hamill. I love that it comes with the binocs, and the main thing is probably the weathering on the boots. The original release, the boots were way too clean, and so huge improvement there with the deluxe. Also with the utility belt, you can actually remove the pouch on his left side, and that just gives you more space. You could put the binocs there if you wanted to. So basically just some more flexibility with the utility belt. Of course, he does come with a lit lightsaber as well, and all the accessories you see here, making this a really awesome release. Now, he does have this soft goods tunic below the waist, which to me always looks a little awkward when it's plastic up top and just soft on the bottom. So I actually prefer the standard release of Luke in that regard, but it does offer more flexibility for fitting in that land speeder, which of course this Luke came with, so completely understandable. But overall, I really love this Luke Skywalker. I think Hasbro did an excellent job bringing us Farm Boy Luke to the TVC line. Coming in at number 3, I have Joruus C'baoth VC361. I'm a huge fan of the Heir to the Empire trilogy from Timothy Zahn, so I was really excited when they announced this 3-pack, and I think they did an awesome job with Joruus. He looks amazing. I believe this is an all-new figure, except for the hand shooting lightning. This is a reuse from the Emperor and Count Dooku. They just repainted the hand, but unfortunately I think they did a really bad job of painting the hand. They made it look really pale and just didn't seem to go very well with the rest of the figure. So I've actually taken Count Dooku's hand and I put it on Joruus, and I actually think it looks a lot more natural. The skin tone is not a great match, but it is better than that really pale white hand that it came with, so I'm going to go with this. And the other issue with the lightning hand is that they only came with one lightning hand. The Black Series release came with 2. Many of us Heir to the Empire fans, when we think of Joruus, we think of him arms raised, lightning shooting out of both hands. So really disappointing that Hasbro kind of cheaped out and only gave us the one hand. So other than that issue though, this is a truly awesome figure. Everything was really well done. Great combo use of the plastic and soft goods. And in case you didn't know, of course, he does come with a regular right hand and an awesome lightsaber. Really like the hilt on this one. Overall, this is a top-notch release for TVC this year. Were it not for the lightning hand, it may have been a little bit higher on my list. At number 2, definitely one of my favorite figures of the year, I have Baylan Skoll from Ahsoka. Hasbro absolutely nailed this figure in the 3 3/4 scale. The head sculpt is amazing. And maybe my favorite thing about this figure is the paint apps. You've got the nice little green buckle and the boots look great. But my favorite part about this figure is the patina look they nailed on his upper body armor, namely the shoulder pauldrons and the gauntlets. It just looks so good. It's a very subtle thing, but it looks fantastic. Now, it's not a perfect figure. It does have a couple of negatives. One is that the unlit saber, they went with a non-metallic paint, even though the lit saber has a metallic paint. So I hate when they use 2 different paints for the lit and unlit versions of sabers. This happens occasionally. I don't understand why. And also, they did not include his cloak. He has an iconic cloak he wears in the show. The Black Series released a separate version for some reason with the cloak. I hope they don't do that in TVC. I don't think they will at this point. But they just should have included the cloak to begin with. Other than those 2 things, I don't see how they could have done a better job on this figure. The articulation and look are both completely on point. And finally, my number 1 pick, my figure of the year for TVC is Moma Dadan, aka Hammerhead. I think Hasbro did an amazing job with this figure. He is such an iconic background character, maybe one of the most iconic of the background aliens in the Star Wars original trilogy, and such an iconic Kenner figure as well. So it's really important that we got an all new definitive Hammerhead in the line, and I just think they did a great job. I'm just loving the details, the articulation, rocker, ankle, feet. And this is the deluxe version, so he comes with a lot of stuff. He comes with a swappable hand to hold a glass for the cantina. He comes with this regular little blaster, but then he also comes with this iconic Power of the Force blaster that was so cool. I love that they threw that little, Easter egg in with this figure. And the articulation is fantastic. The weathering, the detail in his face, everything about it just brings a smile to my face. I just really love this release. had to go with Momo Dadan as my #1 figure of the year. All right, so here's one last look at my top 10 vintage collection figures for 2025. Although it was a very big year for episode 4, I think we also got a nice mixture of excellent figures from other Star Wars media. All right, so that's gonna do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments if you agreed with my top 10 figures or top 10 cardbacks of the year. Let me know which figures you think I missed and what was your top picks of 2025. Thanks for checking out this video. Thank you so much to my subscribers. Don't forget you can also follow me on Instagram. Take care, and we'll see you next time.